One of the things that was hard, certainly in 2016, to explain to people, and certainly from the Remain side, was how do you sort of sell the benefits of being in the European Union? Because a lot of the benefits were completely invisible. So it was really, really hard, especially in 2016, to tangibly say us being in the European Union is a good because of this benefit. And a lot of people might go, well, you're telling us that this is a benefit, but we can't physically see or experience it ourselves what this benefit really is to us. And certainly since we've again since 2016 and the whole sort of Brexit negotiations, everyone was saying, "Oh, yeah, you said all this bad stuff would happen if we voted for Brexit. It didn't happen." And now we're 2 years on from quote getting Brexit done, and now we are starting to see really the consequences. Certainly, we're seeing what sort of the consequences over in Northern Ireland. We're experiencing, as we said recently, we've had a massive increase in food directly because of Brexit, even though that was something that someone like Jacob Rees-Mogg said, food's going to get cheaper. Don't worry about it, guys. But of course, we're now actually starting to really feel those benefits that we had are now gone, and people can actually feel them and experience them for the first time ever. For a lot of people, it would have been in a business setting that the first time they sort of experienced this. I've talked before. I had a friend who, again, the morning at the sort of coming back after, in the new year, not having to do all this paperwork to send, industrial goods over to Europe. Now we had to spend an extra 2 hours on paperwork for essentially one shipment. So it did have a very big, tangible effect on a lot of people. And I think now we're starting to see more and more of this stuff. A lot of people are starting to really question it. And I said this morning on the Good Morning Walk that you've got this sort of competition between sort of Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer tiptoeing ever so slightly backing in towards a softer Brexit. And if you get a softer Brexit, then you really have to start asking the question, well, why aren't we in the single market customs union? And then obviously we end up in that. And then once we're in that, then why aren't we full members of the EU? And it was always going to be the case. That would be our road back to being in the EU. And certainly this time it will be for keeps, because like Euroscepticism, and especially like British Euroscepticism, because I've always said, these two things are very separate. The European Euroscepticism and the British Euroscepticism are very, very different. But the British Euroscepticism really is dead. It will always be maybe there in the background, but the idea it will ever really gain prominence ever again, no. Certainly after the Tories lose power at the next general election, there will be an almighty fight and civil war in the Conservative Party for like the direction and even the very soul of the Conservative Party. That is absolutely for certain. We've already got a quite hilarious case where we've got Brexiteers arguing with other Brexiteers about how this new EU revocation bill may not be fit for purpose. And some Brexiteers actually generally going, well, hold on, guys. Some of these, regulations, some of these EU laws are actually quite popular. If we get rid of them, I'm going to get letters saying, why have you got rid of workers' rights? Why have you got rid of this, environmental protection? So they are very, very well aware, some of them, or at least this dawning realization on some of them, what they've done. We've talked before about how some of the people in the Conservative Party are standing down. Thus, they do not want to, contest their seat at the next election. Oh, sorry, that's sort of the wrong phrasing. They do not want to stand again, really, in their seat at the next election because they know they're not going to hold it. And some of these people are the most ardent Brexiteers you can see. Now, they may not be household names, but Deborah Davidson, the junior secretary for Levelling Up under Michael Gove, certainly back in 2019 was very much touted as being this new symbol, this new rising star of this new coalition that the Conservatives had built under Boris Johnson. Gone completely. Barely even been an MP for 3 years. And it just really goes to show you the impact that he's having, because we always said there were, certainly in the Conservative Party, when you look at the Brexit part of it, there were always the real, true believers. So you've got, John Redwood and certainly Jacob Rees-Mogg. They're the true believers. They're the true believers in the party. But you've got other people who certainly go, well, we wanted sort of, the benefits of Brexit, but actually, hold on a second. Even it's not delivering, the benefits you promised us. So it is quite funny in a way that there is this split almost happening in the Brexit world, where we have seen the hardcore decry any form of sort of, again, negotiations with the EU as being like this absolute capitulation. We saw yesterday, a couple of weeks ago now, the worried panic that Rishi Sunak may be trying to pursue a, quote, Swiss-style deal with the EU. Whether that was sort of maybe misspoken by the press, or it was a genuine option that Rishi Sunak seriously wanted to put out to see what kind of pushback he would have had. We don't know. We may never know. But even Starmer is sort of making noises saying, well, we're going to have closer alignment. We're going to make sure that we are sort of following sort of rules and regulation and making sure that we have sort of very similar same regulation to Europe, which will again lower trade barriers. Now, I know him doing this isn't what a lot of people like, me would want to really go forward, but that makes the best course of action, because you've got to see and test what really happens in the next general election, because you do not want sort of Nigel Farage or even the Conservatives trying to sort of put forward a narrative that if you vote Labour, you're betraying Brexit, because well, Sunak certainly has got the problem of he's got, the Brexit zealots and the hardcore in his party. Starmer doesn't really have that in his party. So it will give him a lot more room to maneuver. The problem becomes obviously the electorate. And of course, what happens if Nigel Farage makes a comeback, or the Tories start, spinning that narrative? Might it be able to sort of potentially maybe save some of the seats that Labour could have potentially won, not only just in the north, but down south? It's something that Starmer has to bear in mind for the next general election, and something that we have to bear in mind as well. As much as we might want to go back in the direction, we can't do it yet. But look at the polls, look at the facts of how, Starmer's talking. Even Rishi Sunak has had to change the mood music to have, closer and better relations with the EU. So we are going in the right direction. Things are changing, and we are headed towards a lot softer version of Brexit. And the thing is, when you start to do that, then that questions the entire reason and being for Brexit, because even the hardcore Brexiteers have always put out back in the the Theresa May days, well, if we do a soft version of Brexit, then what was the point of it? And that is the question they are terrified. They are absolutely terrified of people asking, what was the point of Brexit? So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me Coffee, Waking Well, Buy Me Coffee. And as always, Thank you very much for all the support again you give. And of course, we'll see you all next time.